Tony, thank you for being here, and thanks for people listening. I'm Beth Rapps, the founder of Raising Clarity and the co-host of the Living Ideas podcast, which thrills me. And today's topic is structuring time. And I'm going to turn the floor over to my co-host.
I am Tony Smith, and the context for all of this is Beth and I have been talking once a week for 5 years or more, and we've both been getting a lot out of it. It's usually when you coach somebody, you look for giving or receiving advice, but this has been entirely different. What's happened is we've both gotten to know the deeper parts of ourselves, and we've started noticing how vibrant our lives are, our minds are, and it's been a very exciting thing. So one of the things that I've noticed when we talk is, aside from the fact that I'm always fascinated by your ideas and the way you play with ideas, it's very exciting for me to interact with that. But one of the main things that I've noticed is that you talk about how to mean what you say. You talk about how to spring into action, how to make your life actually respond to what's going on in your mind. And one of the ways you do that really fascinates me is you talk about how to structure time. And there's something a little magical in my mind about the way you think of time. You look at it as it's a resource. It's kind of a gift. It's something that if we're going to be conscious, we want to interact with. So why don't you just start telling us a little bit about how you see time?
I love talking to you. When you first started explaining where you were, how you were approaching this question, I was like, oh, no, we're not talking about keeping your word and springing into action. We're talking about structuring time. And then I just said, I knew I just needed to be quiet for a second. And that's why this podcast is so wonderful to me, is that you take my ideas and first of all, you make them your own. You use them, which is what I always want people to do, referring, again, sort of back to the whole context for the podcast. And you have an understanding of how they're useful. So I love structuring time for its own sake. But it's true. Like, what you're saying is true. And it's like, duh, I hadn't really thought about it, that's why I can keep my word a lot of the time. And keeping my word's really important to me. The world doesn't keep its word a lot of the time, and grownups don't keep their word. And I've strived to be a person who does keep their word. And I haven't always, and some notable failures, but it's very interesting. So now I'm so fascinated with how you broach that I almost want to go off track, but I'm not going to. This whole notion of structuring time, I mean, I could tell you an origin story, but I think first I want to say that I think of time as sort of like water, or the way my spiritual teacher Maharaj talks about consciousness or awareness, or spaciousness, which is that it's always omnipresent, and we just have a container, or we are a container for that. And I like creating containers for time, which is sort of like a gas. I mean, it just escapes all containers. It's all pervasive. But I've noticed that we can temporarily contain time. It does feel like an infinite resource. And our culture wants us to feel like it's very scarce. And I feel like it ratchets everything down really tightly so that we never feel, or very seldom feel, at liberty. We don't feel free with time. And I wrote a blog post once called The ATM of Time. And I do feel like it's this abundant resource. And if something infinite can come to you in 24-hour increments, then it's infinite. As long as we're alive, linear time doesn't really exist, I think, after we're dead. I don't think that doesn't matter, but I just have that opinion. But so here we are, and it's like this sort of magic ATM machine gives us 24 hours every day. We wake up and there we are again, 24 hours every day. And like, if you've seen the film Groundhog Day, there's a sort of hellishness to that. There's a fear, there's a terror of how do we use all that time? And it's just the same old every single day, all the time, all the time, all the time, until we wake up and we realize that how we make use of that time is everything, matters absolutely to our life on this planet. And that's the beautiful learning in Groundhog Day. And so bringing consciousness to the use of time is, I think, the core of what we're talking about.
Yes.
Do you, yeah.
Yes. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Because here, I am terrible in my use of time. If I'm excited by a project I'm working on, then I can go at it for years. Then I've done that. But you know what? The big enemy that I have in this regard is habit. My habitual behaviors are ways I often think later of hiding. And I just kind of, every day I have certain things. I do this at this time and I do that at that time. And you know, Proust said, Marcel Proust, the great French novelist who we both love, said, you know, that habit is the big enemy of art. Habit, he said, is also the big enemy of friendship. And I think it goes back to your sense of being conscious. You know, it's a matter of consciousness, awareness, and saying, and you know, when I think, oh, it's time to get something done, I can kind of move into an anxiety and a fear mode. That's not what I hear coming out of you in your sense of time. It's like, this is a gift to be made use of.
Well, I'm thinking, I felt sad when you said that habit was the enemy of art and friendship, because like the people that I coach, some of them are artists, and and they're also business people and parents at the same time. And if they don't make time for their art, they don't do it. So it's also the friend of art. And Georgia O'Keeffe said, having a friend takes time. So there's sort of an ambivalence I feel about some of O'Keeffe's, not her work, but her life. But it takes time.
I think we're in agreement about that. To me, what I meant was, I can either be paying attention to the fact that time is passing and that there's something I could do with it, or I could fall into my habitual behaviors like, oh, it's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to do what I always do at 10 o'clock, rather than saying, have I made a decision that there's a new project that I want to pursue right now? And if so, how am I going to spend my time to make sure that I'm doing that? To me, I'm always looking back with regret and saying, oh yeah, I could have spent some time more meaningfully there. You're suggesting, I think, that we figure that out in advance and give ourselves the gift of time.
Absolutely. And habit energy, John Dewey talked about habit energy being a friend. I think he really recognized that it's incredibly powerful. I mean, I think as mammals, habit is designed to help us filter and sort and do things more quickly. Habit is a friend, but it can really quickly, habit itself can become an enemy. It is an enemy, I understand that. And so what I'm telling people to do is make habit a friend. If I find that at 10 o'clock, I mean, a part of it is self-observation, which is again, consciousness. I'm the smartest from around 10 o'clock to around 1 o'clock. And so I try to do my most creative thinking and writing, because I do a lot of writing to promote my practice and just to share and be in service from in that time. And if I don't do it in that time, it tends to feel kind of rushed and sloppy and like an obligation. So part of it is just noticing what's my body clock. And I live with another person who also works from home, as I have for many years. And so coordinating those things, I try not to tell my partner what to do with their time, but then there are times that we want to eat together. Every day we eat together, every day, virtually every day I cook. I love those things. And so then there's almost like bookends or things that sculpt the day. And I talk about time sculpting a lot. And again, that gets for that to feel humane and right, I have to observe myself. Like my partner at one point said, can we not eat 3 times a day? It's so much work and so exhausting and so interruptive. And I was like, and then we haven't eaten 3 times a day for years and we love it. And there's just so much more time in the world. anyway, I want to give you a minute.
No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I really appreciated your saying that you want people to make time, make habit a friend. I love that. I love that.
Oh my God, my day is totally ritualized in that way.
Well,
yeah.
I think that's beautiful too.
There's a lot of freedom. Sorry, let me not keep interrupting you.
No.
Please.
No, it's I'm just feeling that excitement I often do when you talk. You know, I'm loving what you're saying. I'm loving what's possible because of what you're saying. I see maybe being more thoughtful and more aware about time as something I could actually do. When I hear you talk, that comes to me, and it interrupts the kinds of thoughts I have that kind of just quietly go, oh, just don't think about, just kind of keep on. And I think as I get older, I value time more. And you're suggesting that there are things that can be done about it, aside from beating ourselves up. Like, oh no, I'm wasting time. What a horrible thing. I'm seeing positive stuff coming out of you about it. It moves me.
Wasting time is the default. We waste time at work. We waste time at home. We waste time with our children. We waste time with our friends, when we could be doing something else.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty. I've been guilty of that. And it's a sadness and a sore point. And so that's the default. It's like, well, that's the background. Our culture lulls us, I think, wants us to sort of be asleep. And so consciousness is, first of all, a radical act. It's just an act of claiming your own life, period. And I know how important it is to you. And people may not schedule time the way I do. I grew up in a pretty chaotic household, traumatic, abusive, chaotic, I'll name it. And so I grew up needing a lot of scheduling. I had school, so there was that. But I rushed forever and ever and ever. Many people who have known me for a very long time think of me as somebody who's chronically late and kind of just rushing. And I don't so much do that anymore. But like when I was 14, I was packing, I think, making my own breakfast, packing a lunch, packing a dinner, and planning my homework on the bus ride to dance class, which was in San Diego County, huge. I didn't drive. This long bus ride, and then a delay, and then a long bus ride home where I think my mother might have picked me up. So it was this whole, like, how am I going to fit everything in here? And I was quickly becoming a workaholic, and I'm a recovering workaholic. And I think that's important to say, that I think of myself as in recovery. And now I don't try to fit everything as tightly into the day. And I do find scheduling and ritualizing things reassuring. It guides me to learn to say no, because I want people to say yes to me. But there's also a way in which sometimes somebody wants something from me and I need to be able to say no. And sometimes my scheduling helps me do that. But like, you could have a list of things that are your priorities, Tony. I'm just illustrating. And you wouldn't have to schedule anything, but you could keep it on your wall. And when you notice that you have time, that you just are aware of time, you could think, oh, there's my priority right there. That's that thing that I'm going to do every day. And here's a good time to do it. I don't know if that works. I would find that hard, but it might work.
For me, I think it might work. I could see myself, because I know what would happen. I would look at that list and I would see a few things on there that really interested me. And when I'm interested, then I have no problem working hard and effectively and going to great lengths to do things well. But that's I like that. That again, what happens is I come out of these conversations, I feel a sense of possibility that I hadn't before. And that's what's so much fun about playing with ideas.
That's right. And that's exactly why. And I love the clock chiming at the end of our conversation about time.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. And the sense of possibility, I'm afraid people will think I'm limiting them. And I do feel like it really frees me. And so it makes me happy that you mirror that back to me, that it's freeing.
Yes,
it's a lovely note to end on. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
All right. Mwah. See you later.
All right.
Bye.